What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Corey Tulaba, the NBA draft dude, the Wolf of Ball Street, bringing you Big Board version 1, the preseason edition, the first big board for the 2022 NBA draft cycle. Today, I am going to go over my top 14 prospects heading into the NBA draft cycle for the 2022 season. Now, I want to preface this by saying it's a preseason board, which means that these rankings are very fluid because honestly, high school tape is really hard to break down. So a lot of these guys are going to be able to either show off more or less with their college teams, their international teams. So it's very fluid. Things are going to change. But this is the first draft, my top 14 guys that you should pay attention to for the 2022 season. At number 1, Chet Holmgren is locking down the number 1 spot for me. I think he's the best prospect on the board. Just about a week ago, I had somebody else in that number 1 spot, and I'll go over who that is in a little bit. But right now, I think Chet's the number 1 guy. The dude has the most absurd physical measurements you'll see, from his wingspan to his height, even to his weight. It's kind of ridiculous looking at him on a basketball court. But the thing that's most ridiculous about him is his skill. The kid could kind of do a little bit of everything. And yes, he's skinny. Yes, he's gonna get pushed around a little bit. But the dude's got some shit to him. He's tough, He really cares. He gets after it. He's not afraid. He's not backing down. I think that Chet going into the season is the safest prospect just because he's so skilled. We see the success that Evan Mobley is having with the Cavs early on. I think Chet could be a similar two-way player. I think he's a little bit maybe more polished offensively, maybe not as polished defensively, but a similar kind of guy. And I think with the success of Mobley, I think Chet is the way to go with the number 1 spot. At number 2, we are headed to Durham. We're going to Duke. Paulo Boncaro. Look, this dude is a monster. I think he has every bit the chance Chet does to hold down the number 1 spot in this process. He's 6'10", 250. He looks every bit of it. He is a man-child. Reminds me of like a little bit of the 90s power forwards maybe, but with a modern twist. He could handle the ball, he could shoot it from deep, he could pass it. It's probably his most interesting skill. What I want to see is, does he get after it for 40 minutes on the floor? Is he gonna play hard the whole time he's there? Sometimes in high school, he had a tendency to float. He didn't hit the boards that hard. He could defend on the perimeter, he could defend down low, but he didn't do it all the time. I want to see if he brings it with real competition. I think he's going to, and if he does, it's really gonna be hard having him not take over that top spot because physically, he's kind of unmatched. At number 3, I have Jaden Hardy. It pains me to say it. I had him number 1 about a week ago. The kid is playing with the G League Ignite. He is a bucket getter. Think Jalen Green, think Anthony Edwards, think a guy that looks like Jason Tatum mixed with Damian Lillard. His range stretches for days. Chicks dig the long ball. He can shoot it from everywhere, man. I'm telling you, but he's really struggled in the couple of games that he's played with the G League Ignite. Now, I'm not panicking. That's why I'm not having him free fall down the board. Jalen Green didn't start off strong in the G League, and once he figured out the speed of the game, he came on and he looked like a potential superstar. We're going to see if Jaden Hardy can replicate that because the kid certainly has the offensive tools, but his handle's been a little sloppy. He hasn't really been able to create separation. His playmaking's been okay. He's a little lost defensively. I want to see how he grows throughout the season because I think that, his skill set as a scorer is enough to, again, put him in that number 1 pick conversation. There's a lot of guys that we could find ourselves in that conversation by the time the draft rolls around. He's certainly up there. But I got to see him kind of pick up the nuance a little bit. He's got the confidence. He's got the skills. He's got the talent. Let's see if he puts it together. All right, at number 4, this is one of my favorite prospects in the entire draft. I'm talking about Patrick Baldwin Jr. He's headed down to Milwaukee to play for his father. Now, he could have gone to Duke, formed a big 3 with Paulo Boncaro and Griffin, but he chose to bypass that to be the man on the team. And that's what I want to see from him because he kind of reminds me of like a jumbo Tyler Hero. This dude's like 6'9", 220. Prototypical wing. He blocks shots. He shoots off movement, shoots off the bounce. He can play make a little bit. He's a do-it-all guy. But does he have that dog that Tyler Hero has in him? Because skill set wise, he really reminds me a lot of Tyler Hero with what he could do on the floor. And I love that he's going to Milwaukee to explore that side of his game. Now I want to see how his dad uses him. Does he put him on the ball more than he would have been if he formed that big three? Or does he, kind of play him as he played in the FIBA tournament, maybe in high school, where he's a little bit more off ball, catch and shoot, off movement, all of that? I think he's got all of it to his game. I want to see if he could put it together. A lot of potential in this kid. Patrick Baldwin Jr. at number 4. At number 5, I have Caleb Houston, Canada's own. He's headed to Michigan. He's going to fill the spot that Franz Wagner left. He's killing it in Orlando, by the way. I love Houston's game, man. This kid is not flashy. I don't think he's going to put up eye-popping numbers. But what he is going to do is just play his role and play it damn well. This kid's a sniper, one of the best shooters in the draft. He's got great size, 6'8", he's fluid, he can shoot it off movement, he can shoot it off the bounce. He doesn't take it to the rim as much as I want, but that's what the college process is for. Let's see if he works on that part of his game, because if he shows a little bit more off the bounce game with the ball in his hands, if he's given that opportunity in college, he could certainly catapult into the conversation, 3, 4. I love Houston. He reminds me, and don't kill me, I'm not saying he's as good a shooter as one of the greatest shooters ever, but he reminds me kinesthetically, the way he moves, he reminds me of Klay Thompson a little bit. So I'm really intrigued by Houston. He had a really great FIBA tournament with Team Canada, so I'm excited to watch him this year at Michigan, scout him, see what he's all about. Okay, at number 6, I have Payton Watson from UCLA. Watson was a guy I was a little bit iffy on coming into the year, but I've really turned around and kind of started developing a draft crush on Payton Watson. The kid's 6'8", 6'9", ridiculously long arms. Looks like he's going to be able to play the 3 or the 4. He can handle the rock. He gets out in transition. Defensively, he's going to have a monster impact, protecting the rim, getting in the passing lanes, picking guys' pockets just with his length and his quick hands. Can he shoot? That's the thing, because he looks a little bit at times like a guy like Paul George. The way that he handles on the perimeter so fluidly, the way he takes it to the hoop, his monster athleticism. I mean, the kid is talented, man. I can't wait to see what he brings the full year at UCLA. I don't think his scoring numbers are going to be crazy. He's behind 2 upperclassmen who are, poised to lead UCLA for, into a deep run. And he's going to be a part of that, kind of as a complementary player. And I think that's really good for his development. But I want to see if he's going to be able to hit spot-up shots. How fluid that jumper looks. Does he attack the hoop, get to the line, and just defend and stay locked in consistently for an entire game? At number 7, I have AJ Griffin from Duke. I'm really high on AJ Griffin. I think that he reminds me at times of the kind of wing that you see of like Jimmy Butler or Jaylen Brown. He's got a really smooth handle. He's strong as an ox, man. The kid's body for his age is so developed. He can get out in transition. Some of the putback dunks he has off offensive glass is ridiculous. He can even shoot it off the bounce. But he gets injured a lot. He got injured before the college season. He missed his whole senior year, so he's got to stay on the floor. I think if he didn't have the injury concerns, I would have him ranked higher, because he's one of those two-way wings that every NBA team wants right now. But he's got to stay on the floor. So if he stays healthy, he's a guy that could certainly rise into that upper echelon of the NBA draft. At number 8, I have Jalen Duren from Memphis. Now, a lot of people think that this is too low, and it very well might be. The kid reclassified to be in the 2022 class, so he's a year younger than a lot of the prospects, and he already looks 5 years older than them. The kid had a monster pro day. 7 foot, 5.5 inch wingspan, 6'11", jacked, strong as an ox, just overpowered everybody in high school. He might be able to do that in college too, but I want to see, is he showing signs of any kind of a jumper? I know that he can protect the rim. I know he can bully guys down low, but can he play a modern NBA game? Because, big men don't provide a ton of value usually in the lottery unless you get a guy like Evan Mobley who could do a little bit of everything, jack of all trades. I want to see if Duren can show a little bit of that. Can he guard the perimeter? Can he guard switches? Can he play drop? How does he mesh offensively? Is he just a dive man? Is he a guy who just beasts on the offensive glass because he's stronger? Or is he a guy that has a little bit more skill? Can he play make a little bit? And I'm not talking like a point guard, just like, DHOs. Stuff that you see a guy like Bam Adebayo do. If he could show me some Bam Adebayo in his game, he's also, just because he's so physically gifted, he could definitely be a top 3 pick in this class. All right, at number 9, this is going to be one of the toughest prospects to scout. I have Gian Monteiro from the Overtime Elite program. This is the first year of the Overtime Elite program. I've already tried to watch a couple of the games. They are not fun watches. It's kind of AAU-ish, and he's going to be playing talent that isn't as good as some of the talent that his contemporaries are playing. But the kid certainly has the skills, man. He is shifty with the ball, and he can shoot it off the bounce. And I love guys who could shoot it off the bounce with some shape to their game. The kid is a bucket, and he looks like it. He looks the part, but it's the talent level. So I got to be cautious with my evaluation of him because the talent that he's playing against just isn't on par with everybody else. At number 10, one of the guys I'm most excited to watch, J.D. Davidson, headed to Alabama. Now, this kid reminds me a little bit of Baron Davis. He is definitely the most athletic guard in the draft. He is strong, and that's why he reminds me of Baron Davis. It's the combination of strength and bounce, because it's absurd. It's out of this world. He's gonna, I think he's gonna get Westbrook comps because it's a little bit more modern, but he reminds me of B. Diddy. I want to see if he could shoot it consistently, which is also something that B. Diddy, struggled with a little bit. But his shot doesn't look broken, but he's never really had great percentages. But I think that it's enough that the shot is going to open up opportunities for him to get into the paint. When he gets there, is he going to make the right decisions? His decision making is what I'm looking for this year. Is he going to be able to figure out the nuance? Because athletically, no one can touch him. And I think that he's got the skills to back that up, but I got to see how he thinks the game, how he defends the game. And he's headed to Alabama, and I think they're going to teach him all of that stuff that I'm looking to see. But I'm telling you, man, this kid, J.D. Davidson, he's Showtime. He's going to be on House of Highlights probably nightly. All right, at 11, I have Jabari Smith headed to Auburn. He's going to take over for JT Thor. I really like Jabari Smith. I think that he has all of the tools that you want out of a modern day 4-5. He can guard the perimeter. He can protect the rim. He can shoot it from deep. He can serve as a dive man, but he's not really very flashy. That's not bad. That doesn't mean I'm not going to move him up on my board just because he's not going to end up like J.D. Davidson on all the highlight reels. I think that he reminds me a little bit of like a modern day Taj Gibson, who's had an unbelievably long career and is still producing for the Knicks today. But he reminds me of the modern version, a guy who could stretch the floor out a little bit more. So, I'm not sure about his fit on the Tigers, how much he's going to get to show off, but he's super talented. He's definitely a guy who has potential to end up in the top 5. At number 12, I have Arizona's Benedict Matheran. He is a returner this year, sophomore, another Canadian, played with Houston in the FIBA games, had a great tournament, one of the best shooters in the class, one of the most efficient shooters in the class. He's not a superstar talent, but he just screams awesome NBA player because he doesn't need the ball in his hands to do the things that he's good at. He's really good moving off the ball and cutting. He's great spotting up, knocking down shots, getting out in transition. I love the kid's game. It's simple, it's not super flashy, but I think he's got more to it. And I think that him stepping into a second college season, feeling more comfortable, I think he's gonna have the opportunity to show off maybe a little bit more of that off the bounce game. He showed a little bit of that in the FIBA games with Team Canada. So I'm really excited to watch him this year. I think that some people probably think this is a little bit high for him, but I'm a big fan, and I think he's going to just be super solid the whole way. All right, at number 13, I'm heading overseas. I'm going with Hugo Bessen, or Hugo Besson, depending on which French video you watch. Bessen is a guard who is going to head to New Zealand to play in the NBL with the Breakers. That's a team that RJ Hampton played with a few years ago in the NBL. So I love this kid's game, and if you don't know, now you know. He is super shifty, a pure bucket. The kid's stroke is pure. He just has such a fun offensive game that if you go and watch some film of this kid, you're going to be super impressed. And, he's not a guy that's been in the ether of the draft cycle necessarily, but he's definitely going to make a name for himself. He's going to be playing with Ousmane Dieng, another guy in this draft who you should keep an eye on. But I think that Bessen is the guy that is actually going to get the most hype from that Breakers team, because I think he's a little bit more prepared to play that pro season over there. But the kid, super fun, can make any shot in the book. Reminds me a lot of Evan Fournier. All right, and at number 14, another returning guard, Jaden Ivey out of Purdue. This kid, super talented, absolutely, awesome athlete, can get into the paint, can shoot it a little bit. He started out really slow as a freshman last year, but then the second half of the season, he really turned it up. His numbers did a 180. He took that momentum, brought it with him to the FIBA tournament where he was one of the best players on Team USA's gold medal team. And I want to see if he can continue this momentum, this upward trajectory to be kind of a guy who doesn't belong at the end of the lottery, but at the top, because he has the potential to do that. So I'm really excited to watch Ivy this year because he could be a special guy who I look back and say, I just had this dude way too low, and I'm fully prepared for that. But I gotta see it. I want to see him slow down. At times, he reminds me a little bit of really early Zach LaVine, whose athleticism popped, so he just kept going fast. And really, only when the game slowed down for him is when you saw the version of Zach LaVine that you're seeing now. I think Ivy has a little bit to that. So if he could kind of take it back, slow it down about 10%, where he's still going to be a better athlete than most of the people, more skilled, still get to his spots, but kind of think things through a little bit more, I think that Ivy's going to explode. So that's my top 14 guys. If your favorite prospect wasn't mentioned, don't panic. They very well might be in the next video. Like I said at the beginning, this is a very fluid board. It's a preseason board, so shout out to Kennedy Chandler, Ty Washington, anybody else I forgot. If your guy isn't there, there's only one thing to do. Hit the like button and then subscribe to the channel to stay locked in and stay up to date on all the draft content for the 2022 NBA draft cycle.